All right, I was told we were live, so here we go. Andy is gone yet again. I think Southern Hills, I think, is where he told me he's doing the summer series tonight. So he'll be back next week to chat with us. And I think in 2 weeks he's gone. That's his last summer series. So Andy will be back next week. We'll start with a prayer. Chris, my friend, would you mind offering a prayer for us? I'm sorry, I should have asked you before instead of putting you on the spot there to get started.
Dear Father in heaven, God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the beautiful weather, God, for the abundance that surrounds all of us. God, let us look to you every day for comfort, for security, for guidance, for wisdom, and know that in today and the here and now is where we should live. With eyes set on you, that guidance will get us to eternal life with you. And God, help us to live our lives with that confidence and show that confidence and security to those around you, around us, that we would lead them to you. God, help us to increase our faith, increase our action through that faith, that others would see this, that they would come to you. God, and also be with those in our family here at church and in our families at home, our extended families, our friends. There are so many who are hurting, God, who are hurting spiritually, who they're dying, God, in so many different ways, and they're hurting. And help us to find them and be lights in their lives, God. That again we can show them your glory through how we treat them. We'll come without judgment. We'll come with humility, God, and we'll come in your name. Also ask you to be with the many in our church and who've been spoken and others unspoken, God, who are sick, who are physically ailing, who need you, and comfort for you to be with them, with their doctors or their providers, with their families. God, that you heal them or bring them comfort in only the way that you can. God, just ask that you will continue to be with us. Please forgive us for our sins. In your son's name I pray.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris. So tonight, in kind of keeping with, as we picked up last week on real world challenges we face, what's going on in the world around us, struggles we face, life issues and such, and ways we can challenge our faith, deal with struggles with our faith and such. We're going to pick up in individual subjects, as I said, kind of listed them out last week where Andy and I are going. And tonight we're going to start one that I struggle with in my faith. I'll be real blunt with you. And I know others that do, and they may not even realize it, to be real honest. And that's kind of government and politics and how we as Christians deal with that. Because obviously it's election year, it's politics, you get on the social media, you get on the regular TV, it's everywhere. You can't avoid it. I think most of you know what I do for a living. Some people are teachers, coaches, bankers, all that. This is what I do for 30 years now. I'm finishing up my 30th year next month, which I know is hard to believe because, I don't look like I've been doing this for 30 years. I feel like it. I feel like I'm in my 70s rather than 50s, but that's how long I've been doing this. And it's a different world from when I started 30 years ago in dealing with these issues. Um, uh, it's been worse in our history, to be real honest. But I think in terms of my lifetime, our lifetimes, and certainly in my career, it's bad right now. I think everybody sees that. So we're going to hop into that, how we as Christians deal with that, whether we struggle with it on our own, perhaps family does, perhaps friends do. How do I go to work and people bring this up? How do I even talk about it? Should I care? I guess is what we're getting into tonight. Uh, this book, this is a very biblical topic. This book is full of politics, number one, start to finish. We'll get into that a little bit. Um, How we came up with this book, the canon, has a political fight. Very interesting history we're not going to get into tonight. It's politics, but it's very clear on government too, and governance. And some of the things we like, some of them we don't, but it's very, very clear. So we're going to talk about that. I know everybody here, I know I don't have to say this, but I'm being videotaped, and in case the elder calls me tomorrow, I want to say it. Welcome, Preston. Sorry to call you out in front of everybody. I know everybody here. Like I said, this is what I do for a living. It's a little bit more personal. Me, like I said, I can tell you I've struggled with it. For the purposes of our class tonight, I don't care if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're communist, progressive, liberal, Tea Party. None of that matters for our purposes tonight. This isn't a political discussion. So if you want to comment, keep that in mind as you comment. I'm not here to discuss politics. I'm here to discuss our faith. Those are two very different things, and we'll talk about. But as I said, this book, start to finish, is full of politics. Your lives, you can hate politics. I hear that all the time. Ooh, I hate politics. Your life is politics, whether you like it or not. We'll talk about that in a second. So those are kind of, I hate to do disclaimers with everybody because I like everybody here, but that's it. Because I will get a call tomorrow, I'm sure. Our elders, rightfully so, want to be mindful of our body here and how they deal with politics. So they haven't said that to me personally. I've been around. I can observe things. So they are. I didn't let anybody know we're talking about this tonight other than Andy. So that said, it's a struggle. Okay, it's a struggle. When I say, well, let's start with this. How are ways that Christians can struggle with faith and politics? Maybe not you, but people you know, family, yourself. You see what's going on in the world. What's a real world faith struggle we have with this? Yep. Prioritizing politics over a Christian life. Absolutely. Exactly. Anybody else?
Sometimes it's hard to remember that ultimately our citizenship is in heaven, it's not in a nation.
Absolutely.
We care what goes on in the nation,
Sure,
but
of course.
Jesus should be our king.
Exactly. Absolutely. Anybody else before I comment on that real quick?
Well, keeping the balance.
Yeah.
These things being true, but then we're also called to. There's nothing more biblical than individual freedom and liberty, which provides us, maybe as men, mankind, the best opportunity on earth to know Jesus is the freedom of religion that we have in America.
Right.
And if we are passive and we sit by and let that be extinguished, we're going to reduce the ability for people to know Jesus.
Right.
So keeping that in balance is hard.
Exactly.
It's very hard.
Exactly. Anybody else? Chuck?
I don't recall if anybody said this in this way, but I'm thinking, as a Christian, we're supposed to obey the authority of the government, and that can be a conflict between what laws there are and what we believe as Christians.
Right.
That's a difficult situation. It can be.
It's difficult. Absolutely. Anybody else before we hop into it? Yes, sir.
Politics are very divisive. Sometimes it's really hard to love your neighbor. You have opposite opinions politically.
Right.
And if you allow those opinions to control your emotions, then the love for your neighbor that emotion can overcome that duty that we have to love our neighbor.
Exactly. Let's start with this for real quick, anybody else. Let's start with this, picking up where you are. Why are we here? What are we supposed to do as Christians? What's our primary concern? Spread God's word. Love, spread the word. Okay. Here's some signs our balance is off. Getting back to this. If you're trying to evangelize somebody you meet or kind of know, somebody in work, kind of know each other but not super well. If they friend you on Facebook and look at your comments on politics, are you helping yourself or hurting yourself when you're talking about that? Man, bam, right for the toes. It's not an easy issue, let's be honest. Now you see, here's our real world challenges with this, right? Let's start with two different things. Government's over here, politics is over here. They're two very different things. I think we get this mixed up, so I'll get a little, again, what I do for a living. Government, it's really clear in the Bible. Government comes from God. God's created that. Here's what we're supposed to do. Again, kind of getting back to Chuck, whether we like it or not, we agree with it all. God has given this. Can I ask, Wes, would you mind Romans 13? Let's just start right into it here. Romans 13. And if you will do the first 10 verses, please.
Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise for the same. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore you must be subject, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers, attending continually to this very thing. Render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet, and if there is any other commandments, are all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfillment of the law.
Okay. Usually when we talk about what God has put in the Bible about government, we stop at verse 7. I appreciate you reading to verse 10 because here's government, by the way, love. Let me sum it up for you. I think we don't get that balance. I think we see it as two different things. What's the purpose of government, just in general? Why do we have government? Justice. Protect. Civil order. Exactly. So that comes from God to do. Again, whether we agree. I love this quote, came across some time ago. We have this to maintain our civilization, put the guardrails up for everybody. Civilization is like a chimpanzee with a blowtorch in a room full of dynamite. That was a Baptist minister out in the Blue Ridge Mountains years and years ago wrote that. And that's why we have government, to balance that, to regulate it. Does it get askew? At the time they wrote this, what was going on with government? What was the government at the time Paul wrote this? The Romans. The Romans loved the Jews, treat everybody in Israel fine. What were they doing?
Persecuting Christians or allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just a couple of decades after the government gave in to pressure and put Jesus to death.
Exactly. But he's saying, hey, that's the authority. Do it. Here's your consequences if you don't. So government is clear. Again, getting back to Chuck, I don't agree with it all the time. I don't understand it. You know, when Andy brought up this topic, he had the preacher thing. I think I mentioned last week. You know, politics in, politics win, and then there was a third one that didn't rhyme, so I forgot that one. But if your politics is in government, or your faith is in government, your faith is in politics, your faith is when you're off base. I can just tell you right now. If your faith is in this, we definitely need to pay attention to this class tonight. I'll tell you. Let's talk afterwards as well. But that said, government, God gave it to us. God gave it to us. Follow that rule. Now, in our country, we kind of touched on, you know, we have the U.S. here. We have the rest of the world over here and various things. Our government's a little bit more involved, right? We're not a democracy. We're a republic, okay? We'll get a little civics lessons here. We're a republic. We elect people to go then do things for us, right? We're not a true democracy. That said, we get input in it. We don't like this issue. We have a candidate that we can vote for that's on the other way, vice versa, all that kind of stuff. So we get a little bit more say in our government. Doesn't feel like it sometimes. Again, I've been doing this 30 years. There's times just bang your head against the wall, you'll get more done, right? That's the reality of government. God says we got to love it. We got to do what it says. That's our Christian duty. Again, our citizenship, where is our citizenship? Do we remember that? No. Am I guilty of that? Yeah, I can tell you. Ooh. Yeah, oh yeah. Every 4 years we forget where our citizenship is, right? Um, uh,
Well, we're in the world, we can't completely divorce
exactly.
ourselves from the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Play the game.
Exactly. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We'll get into this. Any question on again, getting government and politics or do their own thing? Is it kind of clear where government is, what we're supposed to do? It's all right if we engage. It's all right if we kind of complain about it a little bit, right? I don't think God's telling us we can't do that, but we have to do what it says. That's our. He's putting this in place. There's our authority.
I don't want to get down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was a way I hadn't heard. Thinking about our form of government, we the people, in a constitutional republic, that constitutionally we have the right to petition the government, right? We have the right to hold them accountable through our representatives, through the ballot, all these different things, and it requires a lot of engagement. It requires a lot of disagreement, but it requires operating within the framework. So I think that's maybe, hopefully I'm not rationalizing,
No.
where I've tried to understand how you can be against what the government is doing, but not against the government or the biblical notion of government. If they step out of line, that's what makes us who we are. We adhere to the laws and the rules, and hopefully the judicial system is fair.
Right.
And that all of these things work together, and so we can have that healthy tension.
Right.
Where we're not anarchists at all, quite the opposite.
Right.
We're civil order.
Right.
But we petition so we can propagate freedom.
Right. Exactly. That is our government. How does this apply to me if I'm a resident of Syria or South Korea? yeah. If I could get out of, or not in North Korea, North Korea. If I could get out of North Korea, I mean, do we take the same Bible, the same words that Paul wrote for us? Different. I think we get very, I agree with you because we have these discussions outside of it, but I think we still have our American, Middle Tennessee, Nashville, suburbs of Nashville. Nashville politics are different than suburbs of Nashville. All these, I think that's our worldview.
Thank you for this back in Romans.
This applies to everything. Yeah. Right, exactly. But that said, it comes from God. Real quick, because we'll move on. I know, Kaylin, I see you getting real. Let me do this one real quick. 1 Peter 2, 13 through 17. Would you mind that one? 1 Peter 2, 13 through 17. And then one more, Titus 3, 1 through 3. Can I get two? Yeah. Titus 3, 1 through 3, and 1 Peter 2, 13 through 17.
Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme, or to the governors, as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence ignorance of foolish men, as free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king.
See, I gave you that one because it talks about freedom. Again, getting that again, comes from God. Be subject to I think you read it. Every human institution. Emperor is the supreme, the governors. This is the will of God. Now, Tim, if you do Titus.
Yeah. Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good work, to speak evil of no one, to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all people. For we ourselves were once foolish, disobedient, led astray, slaves to various passions and pleasures, passing our days in malice and envy, hated by others and hating one another.
Real quick on that one. Rulers and authorities. I found an interesting word study on that word rulers. John 1:1. Anybody know that off the top of their head? In the beginning.
Was the word with God.
Mm-hmm. The word was God. That word beginning is that same word for rulers in this. Rulers, getting back to that the fancy word last week, kind of the representation of the abstract. The same word is being used here. The beginning, the rulers. That's what that is. I found that a little fascinating in terms of the words that are used to discuss where this comes from. This is a hard beginning is a finite thing, right? Here's the thing. Here's a concrete thing. Rulers are put there. Those are definite things put there by God for us. Again, like it, honor it, speak no evil of no one. Ooh, do we speak evil of people when it comes to politics? Come on. No. We wouldn't do that. God is telling us right here not to do that. Not to do that. So that's. Go ahead.
So how do you, I mean, the Bible says God appoints the ruler, but we are elect the rulers. So how do you put those
How does that happen?
together?
So what you're telling me is God put Joe Biden and Donald Trump, go down the line for our government. He put Kim Jong-il. He did the same one, right? That's what it says.
He used some pretty ruthless people in the Old Testament for his purposes.
As I said, we're going to get into a little bit. This book is full of politics, right? Our lives are full of government. This is all good. This is a biblical topic. Do we now see why people get a little challenged with their faith? Why this is a big deal? Yes, sir. I see the wheel spinning here. I'm waiting. Do you need another minute to get it all? No, that's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead. You missed my disclaimer, though. Everybody had to fill Kaylin in on the disclaimer I gave before.
Well, the thing is, he mentioned, we select
Right.
our leadership. And without going down those rabbit holes, do we really though? Question I throw out there. We're given, I think at times, we don't have as much say as we'd like to think that we do in our elected officials. My goodness gracious, how many positions locally run unopposed? When we talk about someone being appointed by God, why was there no opposition?
Right.
There's no one qualified to run counsel to this person in the entire Tri-City area of Nashville.
Right.
So, and even with that, with the selection we have, I mean, without getting too much into philosophy, I mean, the freedom that we have really only is narrowed down to the choices that we have. Is it not? I mean, we don't have absolute freedom. And as far as the choices go, I mean, what candidates do we really need to choose for president? I mean, once the primaries are done, we only get 2, right? I mean, sure, we can write in on the ballot, but I mean, how many of those are elected? So, as far as God's appointment, I mean, yeah, we go and vote, but what got nominee A and nominee B into this where they were to be voted on? I mean, how many people ran for president? I mean, you saw in 2020 how deep was that Democrat bench to be a presidential nominee?
Right.
I mean, there was I think one point their primary was like 15 of them, 20 of them on stage.
Yeah. It was. That's our government. Yeah, that's right. Made it easy this year. It was decided long ago.
So I'm not certain that in Romans, the beginning of chapter 13, the individual rulers are appointed by God.
Ooh.
Like, I think it's that hard tension between straight predestination, that God has ordered everything, and that no matter what we do, we are just slaves to his, like a puppet, like God's a puppet master. I don't think many of us would agree that that's purely how it all works.
Right.
And I'm not convinced that the word used for authorities or rulers means the individual, like Hitler. The ones that we all can agree
Yeah.
with.
Authorities, the Greek word on that. And I'm glad. Actually, if you since you're on this subject, Daniel 2:21, have that ready. You can read that in just a second. Exousia is that word for authorities. Okay. It's the same word that what's used throughout the Gospels. Jesus is talking about, I have the authority, or when he's questioned about authority, who are you to forgive sins? And I have the authority to heal all that. It's the exact same word, right? It's become also the personification for those rulers and everything, but it's the exact same word that he used. So it's a power, right? it's generalized as our general government ruler's authority. But it's still, I get where you're going with that. Read Daniel for us real quick, though. 2:21. Mm-hmm.
He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who understand.
Right. He gives us kings, set up kings. That word for that's put them in place in the Hebrew. Right. He gives us, again, we're Americans. Here's our American citizenship. Getting back to Tim's, sometimes I think we put that ahead of our real citizenship. Again, getting back, if I'm a guy in Syria, does anything you just said apply to me? Right? The Bible is for all, right? So I think we have to get beyond that construct of, here's our God. The Bible is for all. Yes, we are American citizens. We're this, so we have these things we have to deal with and we struggle with. Where's our citizenship, Tim? Heaven. That's the part we need to remember first. Yeah, go ahead.
Say to Catherine, I think about it all the time. The predestination, the puppeteering.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Seems like not, but God also says He works for good in all things for those who love Him, and so I think that's clearly shown in the Bible. Whether Gideon, Saul, right? Like so many times, it's the worst, the weakest of the weakest,
Right.
The worst characters possible. So I would say, did God install Hitler to go do the atrocities? Probably not. That's probably not his.
Mm-hmm.
But through what happened, what Hitler did, that in God's continuum, in God's will, that may have been used to serve a greater purpose at the extreme detriment of all those people who suffered miserably, everything that arose from that. So, yeah, so I think it's really hard, like, and people running unopposed, I don't know. I mean, all that, I think God's in control, and He allows whatever He needs to have happen to affect His will, and it's really, like, it's hard for me to get into the mechanics of all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about how do you submit to people in government who are evil,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you feel what God's saying, but still hold those, make sure that we all know those people are evil and they shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my cyclone of thoughts will come out, right? But it always makes me think about when the Israelites were in the wilderness and Samuel, they kept crying for a king. And Samuel was getting mad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, people don't, God is your authority. God is your king. It was God who said, Samuel, just let him have him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's necessarily the person. I think it's God saying that, okay, the nature of man, you're going to want a leader in front of you that you see, but knowing how you are, then that is going to then be something that people have to say, okay, it's not necessarily he's testing our faith, but it is in a way, because you have to say, okay, I've got this king right in front of me, and he gave him a tall, strong, good-looking guy, but did he end up being a good leader? No. So it's like a way to say, okay, but still, God is still your ultimate authority. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this will hit men or women differently, but so many of these passages about submitting to government are part of a longer lesson or letter, or if it was a soliloquy that includes other types of authority and submission.
Right.
And the one that we spend a lot of time on that I think women, if you grew up in the church hearing, is the part about submission to husband. And there's a lot about that that's very hard to understand.
Exactly.
Because no husband is Jesus.
Right. Exactly.
Or perfect.
Right.
But sometimes think I'll submit to the government
Mm-hmm.
when it's perfect.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not. Exactly.
if they all were, where would we even find the need for God?
Right. If we all acted right, will we need government? I mean, that's why we have government. Like, yeah, here it is. Go live the. Yeah, we got to have roads and schools. Yeah. But really, I mean, think about it. Because that's why I had Wes read all the way down to 10, because we kind of stopped at 7. Here's what God says about government. He says love. It sums up all this, right? Love. If we acted right, we wouldn't need a government, but we're humans. We don't act right. Taylor.
Chris said something on it, and as far
Mm-hmm.
as predestination thing and God being puppet, I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes we'll conflate God raising up or being a puppeteer versus something He allowed to happen.
Right. Exactly.
Like rising
Right. Exactly. Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, He allowed those things.
Right.
Not necessarily say, yep.
Yeah. Well, he did in the Bible. Look, Israel getting ready to get destroyed. Here's why: you're not following the word, right? We did it. It's pretty clear again. Yes. Sir. I'm sorry. I'll get to you in a second. I haven't worked more. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that the same analogy that you just made could be used, I feel like, just in more of a general sense. For example, like if a drunk driver kills a young, woman and her 3-year-old son in a terrible accident, God didn't cause it to happen, but He allowed it to happen.
Right.
Is the correct way to do it.
Exactly. Bad things happen. Right. That's human. I'm sorry. I kept you waiting.
I just can't listen to this without thinking about Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
And reading this Exodus 7, just imagine being Moses, hearing this whole plan laid out before you. You and your brothers shall go talk to Pharaoh. You're going to be like a god to him. You will be like your prophet. You're going to speak all. Can you imagine him sort of getting scared and excited at the same time? It's going to be part of this magical change in government here. And then he gets to the part of, but I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I will flow my signs and wonders, Pharaoh will not listen to you. And he's got to be scratching his head a little bit and saying, what's this all for? And he tells them what it's all going to be for. I mean, this like we're planning this thing. It sounds like we're planning to fail from a human perspective, but he's planning to bring them something better than Pharaoh.
Right.
He says, then I'm going to be there.
Exactly. Susan.
I feel like we always have to balance Romans with Acts, where we learn we ought to obey God rather than men.
Right.
Definitely think, maybe like Catherine was saying, that's a general principle, but there could be exceptions, obviously, but God is number one always.
Exactly. Again, it's a question. Yeah, real quick, and we'll move on to something else. No, you're good. Right. Right.
The problem we have with submission, whether it's wise husbands and whether people know to a governing body or figure, is it's not necessary. It's rarely, if we're being honest with ourselves, the person that was the human being in front of us that we're submitting to.
Right.
Our issue is really a God submission issue. That's really our problem. There's an issue with submission to Him, and it makes sense that it trickles down into everywhere else that we're supposed to submit. Because if we have an issue submitting to a perfect, all-powerful being, well, there's no way on planet Earth we're going to submit to anything or anyone else. It's imperfect.
Right. What is our government? Let's stick with our government. What is our government? People, government, other people, right? We think of us, right? I get it. Like, do you ever have to deal with a bureaucrat, Chris? That's a government, right? It's a government. You stand in line for 18 hours at DMV to get your license renewed, all the, right? Is it saying love that? No, that's not what this is saying. It's saying, I put it there for a reason. That's what it's saying, right? Does it make sense sometimes? Nope. I'll tell you that. I've been doing it 30 years, like I said. Nope. I struggle with this guy. I'm telling you, I could talk about this all week. I know we're not going to. I struggle with this for all those reasons, right? What does it mean? It means balance, right? We're going to, real quick, we'll hop into it because we're going to run out of time here. Government's over here. Politics is over here, right? Two different things. And I think we put it all together when it's two different things, right? Because government, again, U.S., Syria, North Korea, wherever, Bible says it's the authority. I gave it to you, do it, right? Politics is actually where we get tripped up, right? What is politics? What do you think of when I say politics? Donkeys and elephants. Yeah. I say for the purpose of our time. Politics is about one thing and one thing only. It's about power. Nothing else. Don't get confused about campaigns, about government, about bureaucracy. Exactly. No, yeah, exactly. Am I doing the right thing? Politics is about power, period. Right? How do I get it? How do I keep it? What if somebody's got more? What if you're threatening my power? Everything we see in the news, everything in government about that, that's what it is. And you want to know a really bad secret with that? That's our nature. Politics, right? Politics is in your schools. It's in our elders' boardroom back here when they're meeting. All right. It's in our families. All right, we got everybody's had the little kids at home. They start screaming, mine. Guess what's happening? Politics. Control. How do I get that? Okay, it's in us. Aristotle said about 300 years before Jesus was born, man is a political animal, right? Jesus, the ultimate man, very, very political person. Very political. We're going to read that. I'm not just throwing out opinions here. We're going to read about that in a second. Okay. Politics, government, two separate things. We struggle with politics more than anything, right? I can just tell you, I've seen it. I've struggled with it, as I've said. I see other Christians struggle with it whether they know it or not, right? That's where we got an issue. That's where we need to do better. Politics is about power. It's good. It can be used for good. We don't have time to read it tonight. Esther. Read about Esther sometime. Mordecai. All kinds of story there, all kinds of political drama. I'll skip to how it ends for the sake of time tonight. Esther 10:3. For Mordecai the Jew was second only to King Ahasuerus, the great among the Jews, in favor with his many kinsmen, one who sought the good of his people, and one who spoke for the welfare of his whole nation. Political drama for good. Okay? Politics isn't all bad. I can have power. I can do good things with it, right? It doesn't have to be bad. We think of it bad, right? That's because we're programmed that way by all around us. Media, your social media, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's about your power, right? It's about influencing your mind. That's a whole different topic. Great book if you want to study about it. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying, written by a journalist years ago. Great book to read. It's very accurate. There's another one called Media, the Second God. Okay? Media in our society is the second God. Real blunt, it is. Great book written by kind of the godfather of political communication back in the kind of 60s and everything. You guys remember, they're not old enough to remember, but you've maybe seen the Daisy ad. Goldwater versus Johnson, little girl, the countdown. She's peeling off the petals of the daisy. It's counting down. It gets to zero. Boom, nuclear bomb, right? That's what the 64 election about. That's the guy that did that ad. Fascinating book from like the early 80s or so, something like that, late 70s, early 80s. Media, the second God. Okay. That's what controls us. That's what gives us that framework for politics is bad, right? Because we see that. We're political people. Okay. It's a struggle. The political drama, we know the gospel, all that's around that, our salvation, right? If we were living in that time, guess what it would have been? Political drama, right? Political drama. Am I glad it happened? Yeah. There's a hope for me, right? Without that political drama where Sadducees, Pharisees, they got the threat of this guy named Jesus, who's being followed by these 12 guys, one of whom's a zealot. And as a kid, I thought zealot, he's really excited to be apostle. That's not what it means. It's a political party of anarchists designed to throw over the Roman government, right? He had one of those. He also had the deep state in his 12, right? He had the whole spectrum. Matthew's the deep state. He's the tax collector for the Romans, okay? Simon the zealot's over here. He's trying to get rid of the Romans, right? So Jesus had in his apostles. You think they had some fun discussions around the campfire? Yeah, exactly. Traitor. They had Judas, there's a Jewish teaching, don't 100% ascribe to it, but Judas Iscariot, the Sicarii were the zealots designed, they were the assassins, right? Everyone's trying to kill these guys, take them over. The little knives they use, if you've watched The Chosen, Simon, he has the little knife that's under his cloak all the time. That's their symbol. That's where some people think Iscariot actually comes from that. He was a zealot also. The political drama is he did betray Jesus, thinking when he was arrested, all the people would get mad and overthrow the Roman government, right? I don't care how it happened. It's just kind of political drama. Again, we're living all this. That's what the guy at the, selling me my pomegranates at the stand's going to tell me, right? What the guy at the, around the corner when I go to buy my stuff at the market, he's going to tell me, right? What the grandma who sits around and listens to Fox News all the time is going to tell me, right? So all this is nothing new. All this is nothing new, right? It's the exact same thing, political drama, right? I'm glad that politics happened, okay? Politics is throughout this Bible.
Is it fair to say then that politics, government is a part of our physical nature where, the Bible, God's word, is more applicable to our spiritual?
Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Go ahead before I comment on that, because I see you.
I don't know if I'm taking away from what you're going to say or not.
Go ahead.
I've had these conversations before, but I always, when I think of people having issues with being too involved in politics and making it their religion, everybody needs to remember that those apostles who were following him were confused too. They believed for the longest time that Jesus was going to overthrow the Roman government. They were thinking they were part of a political movement more than what, and Jesus kept telling them. He had to keep explaining it to them. And so it's like when we get so involved in, okay, whoever is the next president, we've got, they've got to save Christians in America and save our freedoms. It's still putting your faith in man, and that's not what God wants us to do.
Right. Get kind of carrying on with that and getting back to the 12. These guys, like, after Jesus had done all these miracles, after he had been crucified and came, when are you taking over, right? When are you getting rid of the Romans? All right. I can be slow sometimes, but I'd like to think I would have got it, right? But maybe I wouldn't have. Again, getting back to this political drama and we're living it, all the people around us, friends, this guy said that and I don't like him, so I got to be on the other side of that, right? All that kind of stuff was going on with this thing that led to a great thing for us, our salvation. It was a political drama. It was government. And then, oh, by the way, do what government says. I put it there for you. And you have apostles. Think they struggle with their faith in government politics? So this is nothing new. This isn't the worst it's been in our country. It's been worse. Congressman tried to beat another congressman to death on the floor of the House during the Civil War. We're not there yet. There's some that would like to, but they won't. It's pretty bad. Real quick for how I play in that role. Everybody's heard of David Lipscomb, right? He said nothing to do with politics. Can't even work for the government. No post office, no military, no anything. That was one school of thought. Wrote a book. It's an interesting book, actually. Civil Government, what it says, kind of the background of it. He said voting was worse than drinking and lewdness, right? I don't know about you guys. When I grew up a teenager, like dancing and all this, that's like a step below being like a serial killer or something, right? He's saying voting's worse than that, right? That's the David Lipscomb. Stay out of it. The reason why? Political strife divides churches. Period. Boom. Nothing else. It keeps you from taking your message to others who need it. That's why Lipscomb said that. You go to the other side, like we are here, especially in America, to change the world, right? God said we're supposed to be for this, for this, for this, for this. We're supposed to vote for it, run for office. We're supposed to protest, whatever we have to do. That's the other side of it, right? We've got to be somewhere in the middle, right? Vote, don't vote. I don't care. I don't think we're the Bible. Some people will say we're of a government where we're of the people, all this. You got to vote. I won't go there because I know some people can't handle it. It's a stumbling block for some. I can find other verses for that, okay? But know why you're doing it, right? What does God want you to do? What does God need from us? You'll hear me say it a lot. Citizenship is up here. Do we act like it, right? Do we act like it? Our danger when we kind of get into balance is that we don't have politics about religion. We have a religion about politics. Right? We have the religion of politics. We have that too much in our society. Okay? I can just tell you, I have seen it from members of the church, outside of our church, for other denominations, people who claim to be religious leaders, political officials we see as the good Christian ones, right? They got their Bible, they're telling us all that. I can tell you, I know a bunch of those guys, like, they're not good people. Okay? Hate to burst your bubble, they're not. Okay, you read this book and you wouldn't call them Christians like they call themselves. Yes? Oh, man, did you hear that rumor too? Oh, man. The people on Fox News, they're not all Christians. Rule number one, when you get their information, this is a topic for another day. Media cares about ratings and revenue. All right. They don't care what you think. They're there to tell you what you think and get ratings and revenue, period. I don't care who it is. I don't care if you love them. I know a ton of those people. I talk to them all the time. Name one, I probably talk to them. All right. Would I consider them good Christians? No, not necessarily. Some of them I like. Do they care about anything but their ratings and revenue? Nope. Period. Okay, period. No, they don't. So keep that in mind as you read all this stuff. Not to say they don't believe in what they do. Here's kind of my issues and my side. I'm going to, promote that, but it's still about the clicks, right? Let's just be real honest with that. Oh, man. Let's end with this, because we could talk about this another week, but I don't want us to get off track too much here. Some things to think about if you struggle with this like I do, right? Because I already tried to step on your toes a little bit. Trust me, mine are bandaged and bruised after 30 years, right? If you see something and your first inclination is to run to social media to comment about it, rather than maybe taking a second to read this to see what's God telling me about it, or even stop to pray a little bit. Not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying use that as an indicator of what your priorities are. Okay? If your blood pressure gets way more excited and up and you get way more vocal talking about who's president rather than here's this issue the church is facing, or here's this relative, this kid of mine, this mother of mine, this friend of mine, this cousin that doesn't believe any of this stuff, and I'm not concerned about that, or they're not living right or whatever. Not saying you're wrong, just saying stop and think, right? What's our balance, priorities? All right, those are some of the things to really think about. And getting back to, if I'm trying to teach those people, they friend me, whatever. Is that what you do on Facebook? You do. I don't do this social media, if you guys couldn't tell. If you connect with them, and I'm trying to teach them about this, and we're this kind of tribal, polarized society, and they see something in my comments, am I able to not reach them now? Again, not saying you're wrong, not saying you're not entitled to your opinions, but am I being mindful that that's why I'm really here, right? That's why I'm really here. Not that we shouldn't have those fights, because there's a lot wrong with our society, right? Let's just be real honest, right? There's a lot wrong with government. There's a lot wrong with politics. There's a lot wrong that all those elected officials, whether they're running for the right reason, just can't fix, right? Those are the things to think about as you deal with your faith in politics and the struggle with it. Again, not trying to offend. I gotta go deal with this tonight when I get home. I got an issue I gotta fix for it, right? I live this all the time. I fail a lot in getting that balance right. Okay. That said, I've done a little bit of good too with it, because people, for whatever reason, kind of know I'm a little different than most of the people in politics. It's opened the door for me to have a lot of interesting conversations with people that, for whatever reason, they see I'm trying to be a Christian. I don't get that. I don't know why. I'll just be real honest. But they do. I've had some good conversations I would not have otherwise had, because I try to be a little different, right? I try to let this faith thing actually be what I live by. I try to let my citizenship be in heaven. Yeah, this is what I do for a living, and I don't like to lose, right? I don't like to lose when I've got a candidate I'm helping or an issue. All right. Do I push the envelope with what I do and get it? Oh, as I said, I failed. All right. But I'm trying, and I get that I failed. What I really struggle with are other people not aware of the struggles we're having. That's the challenge of faith in this real world. We end with any questions or comments before we go? Good. Whew. I get nervous. Again, my dad was a preacher. If you couldn't, I would never be a preacher in my life. My dad always used to say, if I've stepped on a toe, it's the same as stubbing. It's to signal your brain something just happened. Right. Right. Again, I'm not being critical. Again, guys, I tell you, I'm the one that struggles with this more than anybody in this room. I promise, because I do it for a living. All right. I've seen it all. You cannot surprise me or shock me anymore in my life in politics. I've seen it all. All right. But I'm still, while I'm struggling with that and trying to do right, I get it, right? I get it. Here's what the Bible has told me to do. Here's how that struggle and that testing of my faith has helped me with others, right? Help tell others, like, I get it, the world's falling apart. It's not as bad as it's been. It's going to be okay. I promise you, it's going to be okay in politics. It's going to be all right in government. Are we going to like it? No. It's going to be fine, all right? All right. Everybody have a good week.